This is part 2 of my MAASVERSE crack theory. If you've not read everything, you know the drill. Pause this video, save and come back. I am busy proving to you that Brannon is Brannon. And I think that Lidia Servos has named her son for the future legacy that he will create and not the legacy that he has already made. And I'm going to tell you exactly how that's going to happen. I predict in CC4 that the ASTERI are going to return. I think that there was too much foreshadowing that they would be gone for good. Thank goodness we're never going to see them again. We've gotten rid of all the weapons that we need to protect ourselves against them, or at least the weapons that we know of. They're gone for good. But as Vesperus said, Rigulus has had his claws in them for 15,000 years, and it is unlikely he will let them go so easily. So I think either the same ASTERI or a like faction are going to return in CC4. I think they're going to pose a risk either to Midgard as a whole, maybe even just to a particular character. But I think Lidia Servos, as she said, the boys are the only thing she cares about, and she is going to want them off realm. I think she's going to recruit Bryce, and they're going to use the horn, possibly through a Valen, to send her boys back through time and space, and they're going to end up in Wendelin, and this is going to catapult Brannon's life as the warrior orphan from Wendelin. And I think with him, he is going to take his twin brother Actaeon. Don't ask me why. This is the only thing I don't have an answer for, but I think Actaeon is going to become Athril, and I have evidence to back this up. So let's go. The first thing I want to quickly explain is how I think the timeline is going to work. In my previous video, I basically tried to prove that Lidia does not come from Brannon's line and that she comes from ASTERI and Fae. So that's going to keep our timeline going this way, past down to present. At some point, when Lidia has to send Brannon and Actaeon off realm, it's going to trigger a Möbius effect. If you're unaware of a Möbius effect in regard to timeline, it's just imagine time is moving linearly one way. An event happens that causes time to flip on its axis, and it actually circles back into a loop. This is a cyclical timeline. It just keeps causing the same thing to happen over and over again. And I think that it's a closed loop based off of Lidia sending her children off realm. So she's going to send Brannon and Actaeon off realm, and they're going to go back in time to Erilea, where they have all this chain of events, which is Brannon's life as a young warrior all the way up until Aelin and Rowan defeat the Valg at the end. It's just going to be this sort of side timeline. But it doesn't affect or change anything that happens in the main line of events. But really quickly, before I tell you about the timeline, I want to just briefly give you the descriptions that we get of Actaeon and Bran. When we first meet Actaeon, not super important. He has brown hair. He has golden eyes, just like Lidia. He's described as clever, and he's also described as a genius. When we first meet Brannon, young Brannon, he's wearing a forest green shirt. He has blonde hair. He has blue eyes, and he is described by his fathers as being a stereotypical jock. He is a natural leader. He's quick to laugh, quick to anger, and he's what you see is what you get. Also, Lidia Servos describes her own son, Brannon, as being a warrior. Keep these things in your mind, and let's just move forward thinking everything that we know is not because of Brannon's line. It is Brannon's line. Okay, so boom. We send Brannon and Actaeon back in time. They end up in Wendelin. At least just from what we know of Brannon's story, he's Brannon, the orphan from Wendelin, which is where he gets his nameless origin. That's the whole point of his story. What would make someone more nameless or more of an orphan than, one, your parents not being on realm, or two, not knowing the name of your father? We don't know who fathered Lidia's children. Or your grandfather. Her dad's name is not worth mentioning because he's a piece of shit. We don't know their father or their grandfather. That's pretty nameless. Check. We know that Athril at some point goes down to the southern continent. He meets Silba, the goddess of healing. She imbues this ring, this golden ring, that he takes back and plans to use it as a tool against the Valg. So when they first get there, the first sort of accounts of the origin of his history is that he's a warrior. He likely helps Maeve retrieve the keys from the Valg armies. And then once they get those 3 keys, Maeve sends off 2 of the Valg kings, and she ends up battling it out with Athril, who she then kills because he won't give her the keys. And this is a big problem because they are apparently betrothed. They love each other. We know the side quest is that Athril actually fell in love with Silba and that he had this like ulterior motive all along, but Maeve believes him to be her betrothed and that he's going to give her this family heirloom simple gold ring that he doesn't get to give her because he's killed. Killing her beloved obviously weakens her. It brings her tremendous grief and guilt, and Brannon uses this time to escape with the keys. He goes by Mala's temple. This is when he's apparently imbued with her magic. He takes the fire-wielding stags. He also takes some of the Fae healers with him, and he goes to Terracin. Before he leaves the Eastern Continent, he goes to this cave where Athril, his very, very best friend, carved the eye out of a cave monster that resided there. So in his to honor his friend, to immortalize him, he takes Athril's ring and sword. He puts them together and he leaves them in a cave where Athril defeated a cave monster. I don't know why he would want to. Why would Brannon want to leave his sword and a tool that his future lineage will use to defeat the Valg in a cave that has to do with something his friend did? That has nothing to do with Brannon's lineage, supposedly, unless they were brothers and he's paying homage to his brother. Why else would he leave the sword in a place where Aelin and Rowan just happened upon it? It wasn't a mission. It wasn't an adventure to go get this sword. They just happened upon it. The sword, which also has a ruby the size of a chicken egg on it. Did Lidia not give her boys a ruby that was described as an imposing ruby? Obscenely huge ruby with a gold band. Could they not have split the ruby and the ring in half? Because, I don't know, they're twins and they're sharing their mother's legacy. One gets the gold part of the ring, the simple ring that clever Athril went down into the south to have a healing goddess imbue that ends up saving them. And then the other half is this chicken egg sized ruby that's embedded in the hilt of Goldrin, which, by the way, at the end, when they slide the ring onto Maeve's finger and then she has Goldrin like burning within her, it says Goldrin is burning, twin to the light on her finger. Twin. Goldrin represents Brannon. The ring, which is the light on her finger because it's killing her, represents Athril. Twin. Also, is it not weird that Brannon would go and fall in love with a fire-wielding stag goddess? Paying homage to your mother? Oh, if you've seen my other video about Origin of Witches, I think that healers become witches. So is it not also interesting that Athril, aka Actaeon, goes to the south and falls in love with a healer? They both pay homage to their mother from both parts of her lineage, half witch, half Asterian Fae. Half Asterian Fae, stag, fire wielder, shifter. I'm running out of time, so I just want to talk about their descriptions that I briefly mentioned earlier and how they're the same as Brannon and Athril. Brannon, Servos, Lidia's son, is described again as being a warrior, a leader, funny, quick to anger, and a stereotypical jock. Athlete, warrior go hand in hand. He's a leader. He's the king of Terrasen. He's described as having a great sense of humor. Brannon Servos. Brannon, king of Terrasen, is described as by Mort as being funny. He's even described by Aelin in person when she's, well, not in person, but while he's floaty floats in the temple, when Aelin is talking to Brannon, she's like 3 times in a row. She's like, "You're so funny. Why didn't Elena get your sense of humor? I wish you would have been my guide this whole time because you're much funnier." He even goes as far as to look over her shoulder and he sees the weapon and he's like, "Ha ha ha, is the beast in the cave still alive?" Out here cracking jokes in ghost form. The only thing that someone could say against this is that, yes, Brannon in the story is described as having red gold hair and brandy eyes. But I would argue that someone in his lineage has a shifter form that is also humanoid. Aelin, she's a human and a fae. Those are her 2 forms. So it would make sense if Brannon, who gets shifter from his mother and fire from his mother, is doubled down and imbued by Mala with extra firepower. He is maybe getting a tinge of red in his gold hair. Why wouldn't it be called strawberry blonde? Red gold? It was gold. He got extra firepower. He's got red gold hair, brandy eyes. Yeah, there's just a little bit of red in there. I'm just going to take that one for a win, okay? I don't even care. Have I proven it to you? Have I showed you that they are the same? You can't tell me that Goldrin, twin to the light on his finger, is not calling out the twins from Crescent City. Brannon is Brannon. I'm sure I'm missing something. If you have a question, give me the chance to at least flesh out the answer before you deny my theory, because this is my life's work. Okay, tell me what you think.